Hello, I'm Kent Mayor Suzette Cook, and welcome to Kent Today, where Kent residents share ideas and solutions on important issues affecting our community. We live in a crazy world, as daily news headlines can attest, and much of this news leaves residents fearful about crime in our community and neighborhoods. Public safety has been a top priority of this city. We strive to provide a safe and enjoyable environment to live and do business. And volunteerism is a big component of Kent's Block Watch program, which empowers residents to work together to keep their neighborhoods safe. Today, joining us are guests who have done just that. But first, we'll hear from Sarah Wood, Public Education Specialist with the Kent Police Department. I understand that, Sarah, that you have some tips for us today about how to keep safe. And so, what do you have to share with us, Sarah?
Well, if you think about crime prevention as layers, as in every layer of security that you add to yourself or to your car or to your home, just makes you that much more less likely to be a victim of crime. And so what we do in our community education unit is incorporate programs that help the community members figure out what layers they need to safeguard themselves and their loved ones from crime occurring to them.
You have been in this position as a staff person for the city to the residents and businesses.
Yes.
How long have you been doing this?
I've been in this position for 7 years now. It's been a long time.
And during this 7-year period, as you look at the demand on you in helping to provide residents and businesses suggestions on how to remain safe, what have you seen that's changed?
People are much more wanting to get involved and learn about ways to keep themselves safe. It's become really across our community. Block Watch members or members of the public and in their homes or in their business communities want to gather together because they know that they are the eyes and ears of our community. We have around 10 to 12 officers in a police car driving through our city at any given time. And it's just, police officers can't be everywhere all the time. And at the same time, police officers don't necessarily know what's normal for a neighborhood. And so that's where we rely on residents that form block watches to become familiar with each other, because that helps them become familiar with what's not normal for their community.
Right, so if you don't know your neighbors, you don't know if someone's a stranger or not,
Right.
and looking suspicious.
Right.
So with that in mind, Block Watch, tell people a little bit more as to what is a block watch. Is it a literal block? What is a block watch?
It really depends on your neighborhood or your community. We have apartment locations that are block watches, and they organize themselves based upon their buildings that they live in.
So one apartment complex could be a block watch.
Could be an overall block watch with kind of miniature block watch groups within that overall block watch. Because the idea is that you have eyes and ears for each other, and that you support each other. And so it really makes sense that depending upon the size of your neighborhood, you break your overall block watch down into smaller ones so that you do have visibility, line of sight of who your neighbors are, and it helps you realize what cars they drive, who else, what kids lived with them. Just to become aware of the comings and goings of your neighbors is really important.
Now, when I hear you say that, while some of it takes me back to my growing up, because I'm much older than you are, we actually had informal block watches back then, and the neighbor would tell my grandparents where I lived if I was up to something that I shouldn't be. And it was a safer environment. But now we think about neighbors perhaps feeling like you're being too nosy. I don't want you to know my business or who's coming to stay with me. How do you counter that in a residential area?
I think it's important to realize that your neighbors are there for you. Many people work out of the home all day long now. A lot of times there's nobody home because they're working.
When you say working out of the home,
as in
you
not
mean
at home,
not at home. Okay.
You know, back in the day of the time that you're talking about, you often had the mother staying at home, or you had somebody home.
Yes,
that
grandma.
was always
Grandma
around,
was
always
home.
visible, always present. And so it's important to, when you have a block watch, you realize who is at home during those time frames. And back then too, people would be more willing to have a gathering in their cul-de-sac or sit on their front porch and and share how the week was. Whereas now we go to our backyard, or we retreat to our decks, or we retreat into our homes where we are on the computer or watching TV. And so programs like Block Watch just is a good reminder to get out of your homes, meet each other, mingle, get to know each other, and that helps you realize what suspicious activity really is in your community.
All right, we're talking about residential block watch, and there's another event that gets people more alerted where they may not have a block watch in place, and that program is our National Night Out.
Yes.
Talk to us about that and how it's different from a block watch.
National Night Out is always the first Tuesday of every August, and it's really an international event. Communities across our United States come out of their homes and they gather over carnivals and barbecues and ice cream socials, whatever it takes to get your neighbors out of their homes to come together in your cul-de-sac, in a driveway, as you'll hear from our neighbors here today where they have their events held. And it's really about, again, getting people together. It's a great catalyst for a block watch because with the hopes of everyone being there, you can get them to sign up for your block watch. You can get contact information from them. You can have their kids come out, and again, just to get to know each other. And on top of that, a real key component of our Block Watch program is communication with the police department. And we have two-way communication with all of our Block Watch groups on a weekly basis, which is really helpful for them to know what crime trends we're seeing, and it helps them communicate back to us what suspicious activity they see. And National Night Out, we have teams of police that come out and visit the different events that take place across the city. So it's really a great time for us to come out and say thank you to our community for being eyes and ears, because the police department can't do it all alone. It's really about the community coming together and organizing.
Well, and Sarah, on that note, I sincerely want to thank you and your team, as well as the whole department, and particularly the volunteers who have taken upon themselves the leadership of organizing and reporting and being part of this whole solution. Mm-hmm. So I want to move on then to someone who has stepped up to the plate, as I understand, with National Night Out.
Yes.
Initially, and now in the wings is your own Block Watch. So let's introduce now Tremaine McPherson.
Yes.
And Tremaine, tell me how you got involved in this.
Just word of mouth.
Word of mouth?
Yes, word of mouth. Someone had told us that there was a National Night Out committee that you could join and give your own gathering. And so we just went from there. Sarah's number came up. I called her. She gave me all the information I needed, even though at that time I was kind of scared. But she said that just go through her directions, and we ended up with a great turnout.
I will attest to that. That was the National Night Out. That was so awesome. You had families. You had people from several apartment complexes.
Yes. The young kids within the complex, I have to give them the credit, because they were the ones that came up with the idea of passing out flyers. We did a lot of work, and what came out of it was the kids that were working together, and of course we have different nationalities, ended up as one. And they knew each other, they come to know each other, and it was a great gathering. Not only, like I say, working in the apartment complex, we have different nationalities, Russian, black, all different. But that one night, it wasn't looking, it was just all of us together. And what that did was now we know aware who's living to you, next door to you. And it just kind of just came in hand. And it was a great thing. It was a great catalyst to start off on helping each other as neighbors, because we have that problem. Sometimes I even had a problem of wanting to tell someone because I'm scared they're going to say, you nosy, who are you, and whatnot. But it works. It works. National Night Out. So I say if anyone has the opportunity or the space or the room, they need to get on board.
Well, and it was a great party. And as I recall, I'm going to skip down to our chief of police who's with us today. So, Chief, if I recall, you were actually playing one of the games the kids had going in the parking lot. You look like you had a little sweat on you, Chief Thomas.
I did, but I could take out those little kids. And street hockey. Street
hockey, that's the game that you were playing in the parking lot.
And that came from one of the neighbors. And that's what I'm saying. It was like we gave the invitation and said, if there's anyone that will have any ideas, they can be involved, and all doors are open. And what amazing thing about it was all different kind of foods coming.
Oh,
it was
wonderful food,
Yes, yes,
yes.
yes. So it was a great turnout, and that's why I'm here today.
Well, I particularly loved the cupcakes with all that really gooey frosting. I mean, the frosting was as tall as the cupcake was.
We have pictures of you.
Oh, you do? It was awesome. Scared a few kids, but it was fun. So, Tremaine, next to you is Maria. Let's see, get this straight. It's Bolter.
Correct.
Yes, Maria Bolter. And Maria, you are a Block Watch captain. Where are you a Block Watch captain, and why?
I'm the Block Watch captain for our neighborhood in the Cambridge-Kentwood development on the West Hill of Kent. I started out being the co-captain with the originator of the Block Watch, who relocated, and I felt very strongly about keeping it going. We have a transient population in our community now. We have completely different demographics than we had 30 years ago when I first moved in the area.
That change in Kent.
Yes, yes. Recent increase in home invasions. There are so many things going on now that make us not feel so secure as we did. We have several single women that live in homes in our neighborhood. So I thought it was important that we all continue to know who we were, to know who we could call if we needed help, and to know who should be on our street and who should not be on our street.
So how long has your Block Watch been going on?
I think probably at least 10, 12 years.
And with that, since you've got some folks that have been part of it from the beginning, and then
Yes.
you have the new neighbors coming in,
Yes.
do the new neighbors get it? Do they comprehend the advantage of having a Block Watch?
I think in my situation, the newer neighbors are renters. We're seeing an increase in renters versus homeowners. And a couple of the renters are fine. They want to be a part of the neighborhood. Some of the other ones have been a different element, and we honestly did not want them part of our neighborhood. But that was part of the Block Watch, to see who was renting those homes and what they were doing. And I think it's worked out very well. And you have to be persistent. You have to continually go back to those new people and try to bring them into the fold. Sometimes it takes several attempts before they feel comfortable enough being part of your existing neighborhood.
So in other words, if I'm a landlord and I'm renting out my house, which I did at some point in my past, it would have really been of service to me if I'd had a Block Watch captain or somebody from my neighborhood letting me know some of the activities going on in my house. Because while some of the renters were great, there was one that it became a drug house.
That's what happened in our
And that's what happened there. And
Yes.
so that's where I think there's another advantage to the Block Watch.
Yes.
Besides yourselves, it's also the
Yes.
property owners having some eyes on what's going on their properties.
That's correct. And one of the property owners I continue to include on my weekly email messages.
Wow, very good. Well, Julie Wood. Julie, you are a Block Watch captain, right?
Yes.
And you are how long in that position and where are you?
We are up on the East Hill in the newly annexed Panther Lake area, and it'll be 3 years in September.
So you started out as a Block Watch before we had the annexation? Or right when we were considering it?
It started just after the
I think,
annexation.
I think
after?
Julie's
Yes.
neighborhood was what was the first Panther Lake
Correct.
formalized Block Watch
Okay.
up there after we annexed. Yes.
Has it been 3 years?
Don't count.
My goodness.
3 years, July 1st.
Yes.
Things are happening way too fast. All right, all right. So, what intrigued you about this whole idea of a Block Watch?
Well, I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and I was walking through the neighborhood and talking to people, and we had, at the time, 17 break-ins, and I kept talking to people and wondering what we can do about it, and they said, you should start a block watch. And I said, that's not what I was anticipating. And it just kept coming back to me, and so I'm like, this has got to be a sign. I need to do something about it. And so I found out about it, and I started it. And like you, I was very scared in the beginning. I think it's just the fear of the unknown, but it has been the most amazing experience.
Yes.
What would you say has stood out in your mind as far as, you say it's been the most amazing experience? Give us a sense. What does that mean?
Working with the police, they give us the tools and the education and the information that we need to be efficient and effective in calling 911 when we need to, understanding what it is that we need to do in our neighborhood to keep it safe. And there's just many different areas, and they've always been there all along the way helping us, give us information about what it is, whatever it is we need.
And I want to come back to that topic as far as some of the tools that people can learn from, whether you're in a house or an apartment, some of those safety tools. But before we do that, Chief Ken Thomas, what do you think about this block watch business? Because you've been with the Department of Kent here, the police department, for how many years now?
23 and a half.
20, oh, we were to the halves, are we? 23 and a half years, all right. And were you here, was Block Watch started after you had joined the department?
I think we've had Block Watch from before I was a police officer here. It's been to varying degrees of that we used them. I think now, as far back as I can remember, we're as active and involved and engaged in Block Watch, way more than we had in the past, but I think it has been in existence for quite a while. Is that right, Sarah?
Yes,
Yeah.
it has. I think even, like you said, an informal setting, it's definitely has been in our city.
An informal setting, but then it was formalized.
Yes.
And I think it's critically important. As Sarah said earlier, we can't do it alone as a police department. It's the community's police department, and we need the help of our community to be as effective as we can. And a huge part of us realizing that effectiveness is by assistance from Block Watch and community members, and getting those tools and learning how and when to call the police, so we have an opportunity to be effective and catch those bad guys.
And I think a lot of people are intimidated about dialing 911.
Oh,
and this
yes.
program has really educated all of us to not be intimidated
yes.
about, please pick up the phone, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, and I'd like to add that through the Kent Police Department, calling 911 is not only for emergencies any longer. It can be just to report something that doesn't feel right, something that you want them to come check out. It does not have to be an emergency.
Well, and in fact, Julie, on that note, I know I've had called 911 a few times because I didn't know the right number to call while I was in the car when a traffic light's out. Because
okay.
it may not be an accident yet, but or a stop sign is missing. I don't want to be the one who didn't call only to find somebody was maimed or lost their life because I didn't make that 911 call.
Right.
In fact, now, Julie, you also have attended or are going to attend the police academy, is that right?
The Citizens Police Academy.
Citizens Police Academy.
I have recently completed that.
So how does that relate to all of this?
Well, as a Block Watch captain, I thought it would be, I've always had an interest in police work, even though I'm not in the field. And so I saw it as an opportunity to get in there and just see what it's all about. And I said, come on, hubby, let's go. And and he went with me.
Oh, he listens. You have a husband who listens. So it was a lot of fun. It was very educational and, of course, very interesting to me. So have either Maria or Jermaine, have you gone to the Citizens Police Academy
yet. Not yet. But on that note, I've seen, as I talk to people about crime prevention, especially the young kids, that they don't know too much about officers and whatnot. And that stereotype that has been put on our officers, I'm gonna tell you right now, I've been here in Kent 15 years and I love it today. And kids are just acceptable to wanting to make a change here. And I believe that's what has occurred now, that from that National Night Out, I've seen that with information, people can make a difference. And so I guess I'm on that end, just like ourselves, just going farther and farther. And it seems like once I take that step forward, others are following now. As I say, you usually don't call the police because nothing has happened to you, you know? But as you just explained, you rented a house and it happened, didn't it?
It happened.
So why not start practicing now, you know, for others? You know, you see something that's unusual, you never seen, well, write a number down, or write the tag down of a car, or what that person looks like, and regardless of what it might be. Because I'm telling you, if you have an instinct in you, you need to go with that.
What advice do you give people? In fact, let me just pose a situation to you, Sarah. Since you're out there training people on how to handle these unknowns, the suspicious activity, I want you to describe some of those suspicious activities. Because we don't want to be such a society that somebody's walking down a street because they're taking a walk and they've got all the eyes, or maybe we do want to be that, I don't know. So between that and your advice, if you do have a suspicion about somebody, actually going up to them and saying, "Hi, who are you and what are you doing here?"
And that's a big first step, because when somebody doesn't belong somewhere, that the best thing that you can give them is attention. Because they'll know that they're being seen, they're being known, their presence is there, and that there's an awareness that's in that community, and they'll go somewhere else. That's ultimately what our goal is. And I'd like for people to think about calling, not to be scared about calling 911, but thinking about that they may have a piece to a puzzle on something. They don't know what our officers are, what the calls are right now. They don't know what the trends may be that day. They may not know that there might be a string of burglaries happening in a cul-de-sac. Okay, so what's important to know is that if something makes them kind of go, kind of that second thought of that doesn't seem right, or you get that feeling of just that instinct like Tremaine was talking about, or kind of that feeling on the back of your neck where it's just not normal, then I would say, if you have to ask yourself, should I call 911 for this? Pick up the phone and call. And let our officers decide if that information is something that they need, because that's what our officers are paid to do, and that's what they're trained in.
I'm glad you said that, because we aren't police officers. And
No.
I'm not going to try to be.
We don't want you to try to be police
but
officers.
what's so special about that is that instinct. If you are aware and just observe, it's going to come to you. Exactly, because you don't even have to look for it. It's just like I'm in crime prevention, and since I've done that, it's just things I see now. I just see now. You know, so.
Well, in fact, Maria, while it wasn't in your West Hill neighborhood, it was another West Hill neighborhood much further north, that a neighbor felt so bad because she saw some people come and take her neighbor's big boat. And she just figured her neighbors
Sold the boat.
had sold the boat, or it was all arranged. No, someone stole the boat. So what we sometimes are on the edge as to whether we're prying or none of my business kind of attitude, but you feel awfully bad if you didn't at least check it out and make it your business.
Yes.
I'm going to take, though, this idea, and maybe, Chief, you can help me here on this one. Kent now there's so many nationalities that have moved here.
Yes.
People have moved to Kent from around the world. Some of those places, the police are not good. You know, they're the ones you don't trust. Or neighbors who feel like they've been persecuted from their countries.
Yes.
And their view of what is respectful versus disrespectful. So you just talked about, we want people to know the eyes are on them. Are there some times that becomes potentially explosive because that's confrontational, or we get, like in a recent case in a neighborhood, Ukrainians were looking at these cars of people coming in, of Somalians, You know, so you've got two different races, two different nationalities, and the Somalis didn't live there, but they were visiting a family there. So we get into these racial conflict potentials. How are we working through that as a city, as block watches, as neighborhoods?
And I would say the important part on those is to, once again, call 911 and let us sort that out. Let us work that out. Because we had a community meeting last
you
week,
feel
and
suspicious,
a gentleman in the back said, it's a
we
waste of
have a
time.
shooting going
We don't
on,
want to waste your
and you have a
time,
suspicious
and
person walking
they
in
might
the
be
road,
gone
not
before you
right.
get
At
there.
least not right
And
now. We'll come in when we can.
my answer
We
was,
will
give us a
prioritize, don't
chance.
worry,
Give
not
the
bother.
police department
But
a chance
95%
to
of
do
the
our
time,
job.
we'll be coming
If
right
we're
back.
on a different call or a
Yes,
higher
yes,
priority, or
yes.
somebody's in serious danger and we're
on that
dealing
issue.
with that, we may not make it,
him or
but we'll never know
this
unless you
area,
try.
because
Give
it's
us a
his
call and give our officers an opportunity to help. In the cases you were describing with the different nationalities and the different things, if in your gut you have that feeling, it's not a neighbor, you've never seen the car in the neighborhood before, you think it's suspicious, call 911. We do have officers that will respond as quickly as we can get there. But in that case, I would encourage a phone call to 911 rather than the confrontation, or maybe if you go out and they see that you see them without necessarily getting into a confrontation would also be helpful. I've heard of some citizens saying, hey, we don't know who you are, but we're going to call the police. I hope you're not up to no good. I get some of those reports. That's a way not to confront, but from their front porch.
Yes.
And in actuality, in that case that I'm describing, the people that they were hollering to were up to no good,
Okay.
and the officers were able to contact them, and through some police work and some searching discovered that they had some stolen property on them. But the citizen, after they did that, then called, got a great description, and there are so many success stories since we've been pushing this
Yes.
so hard. It is having an impact to keep our community safer.
Well, and I want to bring it home to the fact, I think it gets back to knowing your neighbors. Whatever their race, their culture, their ethnicity, if we don't have enough value of our neighbors themselves because we don't know them, then it really can get in the way of us protecting each other.
Yes.
So while we have Block Watch, which is that smaller grouping where you said, Sarah, it was an eye, an ear, you had to hear or see, so small units, then those are multiplied sometimes within these larger neighborhood councils. So you look at your whole area. But then we have this wonderful tool of the crime reporting. Thank you so much for that report, by the way, that the neighbors can send by email. It's so much easier to stay in the loop. And what's this new report we have? Chief?
It's a program called crimereports.com, and you can get on the computer and go to your neighborhood, type in your address, and it will keep you up to date and show you what crimes are being reported
Yes.
in your neighborhood, various different types of crimes. And it's not meant to scare anybody, it's meant to raise awareness. If you know what's going on and the type of incidents that are going on in your neighborhood, prevention is a huge part of having a safe community and reducing crime.
Yes.
So if you know that a lot of cars are being broken into, you'll know, don't keep anything valuable in my car, make sure the doors are locked. If houses are being broken into, you'll know. If you see people walking through the neighborhood, you'll even be more suspicious. So it's more of an awareness tool where you can get on. It goes back 60 days, so you can look at the various crimes that have occurred in your neighborhood over the past 60 days. And it's really an awareness to keep our residents in the loop on what's going on.
In closing, anything that you want our listeners to remember about, I'm going to close with you on a couple points here, but anything on the block watches, what would you tell the listeners in one or two sentences? Jermaine, start with you.
Regardless of who your neighbor is, whatever nationality or color or whatever.
Or name. I just called you
name.
the wrong name.
No, no,
Tremaine.
name.
I'm
Or
sorry to
name.
call you Jermaine.
I think
Tremaine.
it's always worth the effort to look out for your neighbor, regardless if you don't know. And I see that a lot, that when we see somebody new next to us, 'cause it's amazing, even in apartment complexes, I have people that have lived next door for 5 years, and they don't even know what kind of car that person's driving, and they all walk out the same way. So those things, don't be afraid to walk to someone, especially if you're in this crime prevention, and let them know that you're there to help them, you know. And I found out I've had no resistance, and don't understand most of the language, but they understand when I'm talking about helping them. Yeah. They really do.
That's great. That's a great comment. So even if you don't know each other's language,
Yes.
there's a way of communicating that's beyond words.
And I say that because we think because you don't understand, they won't understand. But I've come to find out they didn't know until I told them, and then they were on board.
Yeah, very good. Maria?
Form a block watch. It's very important. Even if you don't have 100% participation in the beginning, you will end up getting that participation. Just continue to be persistent. Take the neighbors who are willing to start with you. In preparation for this show, both Julie and I independently emailed our Block Watch people to ask for comments to share. We both got responses, and my responses were basically, we love the program, we feel so secure, we know who we can go to for help instantly. We have all of these tips that you share with us. Start your Block Watch program.
Thank you, Maria. Julie?
Hi, and I just wanted to reiterate, call 911. Don't be afraid to call 911. It's not for emergencies only anymore. Think of it as a communication tool between neighbors and the police department.
Chief?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's my message. Give us an opportunity to catch these guys that are breaking into our houses, breaking into our cars. When we take away their anonymity and they know that we know who they are, it's less likely for them to be committing crimes. So please give us a call.
And I noticed so many of the crimes committed in Kent are committed by those who don't live here.
Ah.
So the faster we can get the message out there that Kent is, you don't
Awesome.
mess with Kent.
Yes, yes, yes.
Sarah, what
Yes.
would you have to say in closing?
I think that for some people, forming a block watch may seem like a daunting task, a hurdle
That
that's
it's
hard
scary.
to overcome, and there's so much work I have to do, and I'm busy anyways. But it's about gathering your neighbor contact information, phone numbers, email, doing a map, which a lot of times homeowners association groups already have on file. And once that gets submitted to us at the police department, you're now an official block watch. You'll have signs posted in your neighborhood that identifies you as that, and you're on your way. And so just think of it as a little bit of work up front for a huge payoff down the road.
And I know we're going to have your contact information on the television here, but what would you, they email who?
They can email me at the police department, Sarah Wood in the community education unit.
And Sarah is S-A-R-A?
Yes, that's right. W-O-O-D. And if you want to, a quick way to find me is Kent National Night Out, since we're planning that. You can go to kentnno.com, and my contact information will be down there at the bottom.
And in fact, Kent National Night Out, now is the time to plan for your party. What a great beginning that can be for your small neighborhood area to have a block watch party before you even become a block watch. Help bring it home so that you and your neighbors are safer. Well, I want to thank so much our guests on today's program. With dedicated volunteers and our awesome staff from the City of Kent, we really are able to stay ahead of the criminals in many cases. You never know the crimes you've prevented because of you being more aware. So thank you so much. And that concludes our program, folks. We will see you next time on Kent Today.